everybody, and welcome to the Silly History Boys Norse Bedtime Special Extravaganza. I might be over-egging that a little bit. It's probably not going to be an extravaganza. But what we do have for you this week is a few of the stories taken from the Usborne Illustrated Norse Myths. And this has been written by Alex Frith and Louis Stowell, sorry if that's not how it's pronounced, Louis, and illustrated by Matteo Pincelli. This is, and has been for a really long time, I mean we're talking 10 plus years, my go-to book for Norse stories, and I just think they're told really well. It's aimed at children, so there's nothing too offensive in here, not too gory, but it's just a really good introduction to Norse myths and the characters of the Norse pantheon. So what's going to happen is that Uncle Bilbo and I, hello everyone, it's the Pear Bear here, we're going to read you a couple of stories to send you off to the land of Nod, and then you're going to be very good for your parents and you're going to go straight to sleep, aren't you? And very much like with the other bedtime episodes, we'll play music from the Guild of Ambience to help you head off into sleepy times. Let's get straight to the first story, and this first story is called The War of the Gods. The Aesir were not the only gods. A mysterious race known as the Vanir had appeared to the east of Asgard in the lofty realm of Vanaheim. At first, the gods lived alongside each other in peace, until one day a mischievous Vanir goddess paid a visit to Asgard. "My name is Gullveig," she told the Aesir, and began to delight them with her magic. She conjured fire out of thin air, painting beautiful shapes with the flames and turning them into gold. Then she told the gods what they would do the next day. Each god was amazed when all her predictions came true. Odin was fascinated. "I know the secret of runes," he boasted, "and I have learned much of the art of magic. But even with all my skill, I can't think how you perform these tricks. I demand to know the secret." Gullveig laughed. "Why, there is no secret. These tricks are child's play to the Vanir. It comes naturally to us." "Teach me then," insisted Odin. "But you are an Aesir, a warrior god," came the reply. "Your kind revels in violence. We Vanir are gods of the earth. We care for the plants and make them grow. We're so different. I couldn't teach you if I tried." Odin shook with rage. He couldn't bear the idea of not knowing something. "Take this witch and burn her," he shouted. The Aesir tied Gullveig to a wooden stake and lit a fire beneath her. Gullveig laughed, even as her body was consumed by flames. Soon she was no more than a heap of ash on the ground. "Don't worry, she comes back, it's okay." Moments later, a wind blew up. The ash swirled in the air and took on the shape of a woman. See, told you. The Aesir watched astonished as Gullveig's body reformed, skin, hair, clothes and all. "Burn her again," roared Odin, but again Gullveig disintegrated, only to reform as soon as the fire burned out. She laughed maniacally. The Aesir threw spears into Gullveig and burned her body a third time, but she would not stay dead. In the end, Odin worked some magic of his own. Realizing he could not kill the Vanir sorceress, he banished her forever, casting her down to a damp and dreary corner of Midgard, called Liverpool. Njord, king of the Vanir and god of the wind and waves, was furious. He gathered an army of Vanir warriors, and they thundered to the great wall of Asgard, eager for revenge. The wall was high enough to keep out the tallest of the giants, but it could not withstand the Vanir's magic. A powerful spell crumbled the stones, and Asgard lay open to attack. The Vanir marched with weapons raised, ready to meet the Aesir army. But instead, they were met by a single god, Odin himself. "Have you come to fight us alone, arrogant Odin?" asked Njord. "Or are you here to offer your surrender?" "Why should I surrender?" snorted Odin. "My son's army has already invaded Vanaheim." "You're lying." "Am I? Use your magic and see for yourself." Njord cast a spell, peered into the clouds, and saw Tyr, the bravest of the Aesir, marching through Vanaheim, a great army behind him. Beside Tyr were his two generals, Honir, Odin's youngest brother, and Balder, Odin's son. And striding through the ranks was the goddess Frigg, who had the power to heal any wound. "Attack!" cried Tyr, and his army charged into Njord's great stone hall, killing the guards and smashing down the walls. In no time they had reduced the hall to rubble. Far off in Asgard, Njord felt the damage to his home deep in his bones and turned to his son Frey. "Odin must pay for this insult," he hissed. "Begin the attack on Asgard." "I am ready, father," replied Frey. He raised his sword arm and, with a blood-curdling cry, he and his army began to charge. Odin didn't move. With a gloating smile, he blasted on a trumpet, and his son Thor came storming into battle in a chariot pulled by two ferocious goats, Tooth Gnasher and Tooth Grinder. Their hooves pounded so hard, great peals of thunder shook the 9 realms. Thor swung a sword at Frey as he passed him, and Frey countered with a mighty clang. Frey knew he was no match for Thor in battle skills, but he didn't need to be. He had a secret weapon, a magic sword. Frey let go of the blade and backed away. His sword sprang to life and flew through the air as if controlled by an unseen hand. Thor jumped from his chariot and battled the sword with his own, but it countered his every blow. "Stop!" Odin cried out. "I call a truce. Let us not see our sons kill each other." "I agree," said Njord. He nodded at Frey, who grabbed his magic sword in one hand, offering the other to Thor as a token of peace, and the two warriors shook hands. "Now call off your army," Njord said to Odin. "They've already destroyed my home." "It is done," Odin declared, pointing into the distance. "Look, I have sent my ravens to tell Tyr to return to Asgard." "And we will return to Vanaheim," said Njord. "Oh," Odin began. "As a sign of our newfound peace, why don't you stay here in Asgard and sit on the Aesir Council?" "I like the idea of being able to keep an eye on you," Njord mused. "I agree. On one condition. You let us keep an Aesir god in Vanaheim." "Gladly," said Odin. "Take my brother Honir." "Honir? What good's that, simpleton?" asked Njord. "My brother is no simpleton," Odin fumed. "Why, there's no one better at considering advice. He'll make an excellent chairman for your council. But to help him, I'll send Mimir to Vanaheim too. Mimir guards the Well of Truth. There's little he doesn't know, innit?" "So be it," declared Njord, and the two kings shook hands and decided not to mention how bad Odin's accent was in that previous speech. Njord built a new hall in Asgard, as did his son Frey and daughter Freya. The Aesir welcomed and accepted them. But in Vanaheim, the Vanir were soon cursing Odin's name. Onir refused to help the council make any decisions unless Mimir told him what to say. And Mimir was so angry at being sent to Vanaheim, he never spoke a word. The Vanir sliced off Mimir's head and sent it to Odin, threatening to start a new war. But Odin did not take the bait. Instead, he covered the head with herbs so it would not rot, and sang charms over it to give it the power of speech, revealing to him all Mimir's secrets. When Njord saw Mimir's head beside Odin's throne, he knew Odin had a great advantage over the Vanir. If war ever broke out again, he was sure the Aesir would win. He vowed to stay loyal to Odin from that day on, and always to keep the peace. Now, if you remember our Norse Megamix episode, the 4 stories that we did in collaboration with York Viking Centre, the gods actually cement that piece by all spitting into a giant cauldron, and then that giant cauldron gets turned into a character that's in one of those stories. But no spoilers, go and listen to the episode, listener. Right, well, that's our first bedtime story. Very exciting, lots of action, so you're probably more awake, aren't you now? But there's nothing more soothing than the lovely tones of Uncle Bilbo, and this is his story.
Loki's children. Loki was not the only troublemaker in his family. Before Loki's children were born, the far-sighted Norns gave the gods a terrible warning.
The trickster spawn will be the death of you!
3 of Loki's children did indeed look deadly. One was a wolf named Fenrir. Another was Jormungandr, a gigantic sea serpent. And a third was a demonic creature known as Hel. Half her body was young and girlish. The other half was old and rotten like a corpse. Jormungandr and Hel were so terrifying, they were cast out of Asgard at once. "Good riddance!" shouted Odin after them. Jormungandr fell with a tremendous splash into the ocean surrounding Midgard, while Hel plunged into Helheim, the land of the dead, and became its ruler. Only Fenrir was allowed to stay in Asgard. He was just an ordinary wolf at first, so the gods felt sure they could handle him, but he soon grew into a gigantic, drooling beast with teeth and claws as sharp as knives. "We will have to chain him up before he eats someone," said Odin. He looked around. "Any volunteers?" The gods remained unusually silent. "Loki," said Odin, "he's your child. Perhaps you—" Loki cut him off mid-sentence with a reproachful look. "How can you ask me to tie up my own son? Please don't make me. Look at his little punum." Odin held up his hands. "Fair point, Loki. Anyone else?" But none of the other gods wanted to go near the wolf. Eventually, Tyr, the god of war, stepped forward. "I will do it," he said. The next day, he sidled up to Fenrir, carrying a huge and heavy chain. "You're such a mangy, puny beast," he taunted. "If I tie you up with this, you'll never get free." "I could do it in my sleep," scoffed Fenrir. The wolf let Tyr chain him, yawned, then burst the chains with a twitch of his rippling muscles. "I'll have to try a thicker chain," thought Tyr. After searching high and low, the war god found a chain that was twice as thick as the first, with links as big as dinner plates. "You won't escape from this one," Tyr promised. Fenrir shrugged his hairy shoulders and let Tyr chain him up once more. As the god of war wrapped the chain around and around the wolf, all the gods gathered to watch. Surely he couldn't break out of a chain as thick as this. When Fenrir was trussed up tightly, Tyr stepped back and waited. Stiffly, Fenrir lay down, putting his head on his chained-up paws and looking very sorry for himself. The god sighed with relief, until the wolf twitched his nose, flicked his tail, and tore through the chains as though they were paper. So Tyr had to start all over again. This time he sent a message to Nidavellir, the dark home of the dwarves. "It's time to call on the experts," he told Odin. "No one in all the realms can forge stronger steel than the dwarves." But the dwarves didn't send back a metal chain. Instead, they had wrought a rope, smooth as silk and as slender as a finger. It hardly looked strong enough to hold an ordinary wolf, let alone a monster of Fenrir's size and strength. Still, Tyr trusted in the amazing skills of the dwarves. "Come here," he called to the wolf. "Compared to the last couple of chains, This little piece of string is nothing. But, he added, if you can't burst it, I promise to let you out. Fenrir padded forward, sniffing the rope suspiciously. It smells of dwarves, he growled. Along with the scent of iron and deep, dark caves, Fenrir also smelled a trap. Very well, but when you tie me up, one of the gods must put his hand in my mouth. He curled his lip into a snarling grin. If I can't get out, and you don't free me, someone is gonna lose an end. Once again, Tyr was the only god brave enough to volunteer. He put his hand into Fenrir's mouth, being careful not to cut himself on the creature's lethal teeth. The other gods tied the wolf's feet with the silken rope, hoping that the dwarves really were as good as Tyr believed. When the last knots were tied, the wolf flexed his muscles. Nothing happened. He began to struggle. The ropes only grew tighter. When he saw that it was hopeless, he let out a growl from beneath his teeth. Let me out! But Odin refused. Oh, you're much too dangerous to wander around freely. Furious, Fenrir bit down hard, slicing clean through Tyr's wrist. Tyr let out a howl of agony that echoed all through Asgard. Thanks to Tyr's sacrifice, the gods didn't have to worry about Fenrir, at least for a while. Ragnarok spoilers. But thanks to Fenrir, Tyr spent the rest of his days with a stump instead of his right hand.
Oh, well, that was very nice. Thank you, Uncle Bilbo. Very relaxing. We could probably draw a line under it there, but you know what, boys and girls? I think you've been so well behaved this sleepy bedtime that you can have one last short story. This story is called Loki Lends a Hand. One day, not long after the war with the Vanir, a stranger in a scruffy cloak came riding over the Rainbow Bridge to Asgard. Loki sat watching him approach. A mysterious stranger, he thought. There's no better type of visitor. I wonder what mischief he'll bring. Who goes there? Called a voice. It was Heimdall, the mighty guardian of Asgard. He moved to block the stranger's path with his vast sword, muscles tensed for a fight. I have an offer for Odin, the stranger replied. Heimdall patted the man down for weapons and let him pass. All the gods gathered to hear what the stranger had to say. I'm a builder, he said. I can rebuild your wall destroyed in the Vanir War, but it will take 18 months, and it won't be cheap. Name your price, boomed Odin. They really did need a wall to keep the evil frost giants out. I want the sun and the moon, said the man. The gods all started shouting angrily. We'll have to scrabble around in the dark, yo, cried one who was bolder. But the builder wasn't finished. I also want the beautiful goddess Freya's hand in marriage. At that, the gods fell silent. A dirty, sweaty builder marry their beloved Freya? It was unthinkable. Freya herself almost fainted in horror. How dare you! Roared Odin. Get out! But Loki, who'd been standing quietly beside Odin until now, said, Don't be hasty, All-Father. I have an idea. He leaned closer. I say, accept his offer, Loki whispered, but only give him 6 months. He can't possibly finish that quickly, so we'll get it half built at least, and for free. Oh, you are cunning, Loki, Odin smiled. Then, in a voice like thunder, he had said, I accept your offer, builder, but you must complete the work in 6 months, not 18. Then please let me use my horse, said the builder. I can't carry the rocks by myself. Well, I don't see why not, said Odin. Go ahead. So the builder and his horse set to work. As the months went by, the wall went up, higher and higher. Soon it started to look as though he'd finished the job in time. Panic spread through Asgard, and Odin was furious. "Loki!" he bellowed. "This is all your fault! Your ridiculous scheme is going to lose us Freya, not to mention the sun and moon! Oh, you'd better stop this builder from keeping his side of the bargain, or I'll tear you into 10 million pieces in it!" Loki cowered. "I swear, Odin, I'll stop him. You'd better, or 10 million pieces!" The next day, as the builder was starting work, a beautiful glossy mare appeared from the woods. She shook her tail at the builder's horse, and the horse whinnied and ran after her. The builder chased his horse all day and all night, but he couldn't catch it. The deadline came and went, and the wall was not finished. The builder howled with rage. "You tricked me, you gods!" he cried, throwing off his cloak. He'd stretched up and up some more, revealing his true form, a towering stone giant. Before the giant could attack, Thor stepped forward. He grabbed a boulder and hurled it at the giant's head. Lightning cracked the sky, fired by Thor's fury, and with a resounding crunch, the boulder smashed into the giant's skull. The giant crashed to the ground. There was a pause. Well, we certainly don't have to pay him now," said Odin. A few days later, Loki reappeared, leading an 8-legged horse. He looked at Odin with wide, sorry eyes. "This is for you," he said, handing over the bridle. "This wonderful creature," Loki added, stroking the horse's nose, "is the child of the giant's horse. It was born today, fully grown. And I believe I'm looking at its shape-shifting mother," chuckled Odin. He peered at Loki more closely. Indeed, Loki still looked a little horse-like in the face, and stamped his feet just like the mysterious mare. Loki grinned. "Guilty," he said. Odin was delighted with his new steed, and with Loki's shape-shifting trick. So, even though the other gods grumbled, Odin forgave him. With a huge sigh of relief, Loki swore, "I'll never get us into trouble like that again." But Odin failed to notice that Loki had slipped his hand behind his back and crossed his fingers. Oh, that Loki. Isn't he cheeky? What a cheeky frost giant man. Well, it's time to go to beddy byes now, isn't it? It's time to be asleep. In fact, you should already be asleep, really. But then I suppose, how would you have known what the end of the story was going to be like? Right, it's off to the land of Nod, listener. And we'll see you next time for a probably slightly more dramatic episode. Until then, sleep tight. Night-night.